Welcome to the fifth episode of the Revolutionize STEM Women in STEM webinar series. Joining us today is Dr. Vigneshwari Subramanian. She's a senior data scientist specializing in computational DMPK and safety at AstraZeneca. Her focus and passion is on drug discovery. She's also a postdoctoral researcher at AstraZeneca and RWTH Aachen University. She completed her doctoral research on computational drug discovery in collaboration with Orion Pharma, and she completed her PhD computational drug discovery and MSc Bioinformatics at the University of Helsinki. Currently, she is also a mentor of Freedom Employability Academy and the New York Academy of Sciences. Welcome everyone to the fifth episode of Revolutionize STEM's webinar series. Today we have, I am so sorry if I butcher the pronunciation, but Vigneshwari Subramanian,
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Please go ahead.
a senior data scientist from AstraZeneca, Sweden. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us. Would you like to start off by introducing yourself and your profession?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Vigneshwari Subramanian, and I'm a senior data scientist in AstraZeneca, and I'm based in Sweden at the moment. So I can just share a bit about my educational background. So I was originally born and brought up in India, but I've been living in Europe like for the past 12 years, actually. I did my bachelor's in bioinformatics, and then I worked for a couple of years. I wasn't so happy with what I was doing. I just wanted to progress further in my career, and just study more bioinformatics and get into drug discovery field. So I decided that I would move to Finland for doing a master's in bioinformatics. And then, when I was doing my master's, I had an opportunity to do my thesis in a pharma company, and things went really well. And I wanted to continue that as my PhD thesis. So then I did a PhD in computational drug discovery in Finland. In the end, I was there in Finland for about 6.5 years. And after that, I wanted something different. So then I moved to Germany for doing a postdoc in systems biology and precision medicine. And after my postdoc in Germany, I wanted to get back to industry. So I applied to AstraZeneca and I moved here as a postdoctoral researcher, but then in computational drug discovery instead of systems biology. But then, after being a postdoc for about 2 years, I transitioned to a senior data scientist position. So that's where I am at the moment. Yeah.
What does a day in your life look like?
Yeah, so a day in my life. Okay, that's a very interesting question, actually. So most of the time, so as a data scientist, we have to, as you know, we have to do a lot of data analysis, data visualization. And apart from analysis and visualization, of course, we need to make meaningful interpretations of the data. So I use a lot of machine learning. I do a lot of coding, and then we make predictive models. And these models, the purpose of these models are to be used by others, within the company, within the organization. And then so we spend I spend at least pretty much 50 to 60% of my time doing this. But this is not just a single model. We have many different use cases. So I build different kinds of models, and sometimes it's not only just model building, but we should also do other kinds of data visualizations and other things. And then apart from that, the most important part of being a data scientist is I should be able to explain my results, and I should be able to convince what I have found. So I should be able to convince the experimental people that okay, this is what I found, does it really make sense? So we also spend quite a bit of time trying to interact with people who have got different backgrounds. So I have a lot of meetings with the experimental people. And apart from that, we also do a lot of knowledge sharing within the team members. So this is also quite important. Not all of us have the same background. We all have different backgrounds, so it's kind of a bit helpful. Some of us don't know something and others know something. So we just do this knowledge transfer. So a lot of interactions happen there as well. So yeah, this is pretty much it. And apart from that, yeah, we also have like student supervision roles. So I've got like we've got some intern students in the group and also like master's thesis students. So also, so I'll be doing also the student supervision. So yeah, this is how my day looks like. Quite a busy day. Yeah.
What would you say interested or inspired you to pursue a field in the intersection between data science and drug discovery?
Yeah, so in my case, I would say this started like long back, like maybe just after my high school. So I was like, when I was doing my high school, like I was really interested in both computers and biology. So since then, like I always wanted to pursue a career like where I had the opportunity to explore both at the same time. So that's when I was just looking for courses and I stepped into bioinformatics. So that's how it all started. And then when I was doing my then of course as I told you, I also did my master's in bioinformatics. But then like my first data science project or my first exposure to data science happened when I was doing my master's thesis. So that was my first machine learning project where I had a lot of data and they told me, okay, here's the data for you, just make useful models and make meaningful interpretation. So that was the first time I started exploring things. I got the first exposure to machine learning. And since then, like I really enjoyed what I was doing, because the best part of like doing data science, it's not only that you make the models for yourself, you use it and they're discarded. It's more like it's just going to have an impact, like even on other people, like within the organization, because you give your models to them and they use it to predict, they use it to plan their experiments. So this is how I feel like, I'm also like, whatever I'm doing is also helpful to everyone else within the organization. So that inspires me a lot. That keeps me motivated, like all through the day, actually. Yeah.
Could you share a bit about past roles and like just educational backgrounds?
I think I introduced myself, right? Do you want me to say something more actually about it?
No, I think
About
that
the past role? Okay.
um, have you always known that you wanted to pursue this field, or have you like ever doubted pursuing this specific field?
Okay, so this is more like, yeah, I haven't planned that. I never thought that I would be a data scientist now. I didn't even think about it like 3 years back. So it has all been like, quite spontaneous decisions. So the only thing that I planned for is to study bioinformatics and do computational drug discovery. But all the things, all the roles that I've taken and like the different countries I've moved and the different roles, everything was completely unplanned. So it was more about like I got the inspiration like by attending like different conferences, like reading through literature, and if I find something interesting and if I think like I have the potential to explore that, then I make these switches. So even in AstraZeneca, I started here as a postdoctoral researcher and I was in the Computational Drug Discovery department. But then I came across like this being a scientist in the computational drug safety. And then I thought like, yeah, this is like quite exciting and it's new. And for me, it's what keeps me motivated is like, as long as I have something new to do every day and as long as something that helps me learn something. So that actually like keeps me going. So my current role is that way, and that's how like I got into it. But it's not something that I really planned for, so I'm not sure if I'll be a data scientist after 10 years. So it just keeps evolving depending on the interest and the things that I come across. Yeah.
What would you say is the difference between a data scientist, a data engineer, and a data analysis?
Yeah. Analyst, yeah. So quite often, like a lot of people, like they've discussed about it. Like, so data analyst is someone like who doesn't have to be like really skilled in programming. They just need to have some like basic skills, but they don't have to be skilled programmers. All they need to know is like just to make like meaningful visualizations, interpretation of the data, and whatever interpretation they are making, it should be useful for the decision making with the higher level management. So this is what a data analyst typically does. A data scientist is also a data analyst, but then a data scientist does like, as I said in the beginning of my talk, the data scientist like does a bit more than what a data analyst does, like getting into the part, so data scientists should be highly skilled in programming. We do a lot of coding, pretty much like all through the day, like nearly 50 to 60% of the time like goes in coding. So we have to be like really, really good in programming. And then like data scientist actually like focuses more with the machine learning and like artificial intelligence part. So we do like much more advanced things than what a data analyst does. And then a data engineer is someone, even though we build the models and like we explore like different kinds of validations and stuff. So to get the models, to productionize them and to optimize the performance of the models to get it to the final end users, whomsoever it may be, let it be the chemist, let it be the experimentalist. So this is actually done by a data engineer. So the productionizing part is done by a data engineer. So I would say a data engineer is more like a kind of software engineer. And it's not necessary that a data engineer should have domain knowledge, but it's good if they don't have the domain knowledge. But a data scientist should definitely have domain knowledge depending on the field where you work. For example, like if it's automobile or chemistry or pharmaceuticals, whatever it may be, a data scientist should have domain knowledge. Otherwise, like, yeah, you can make some models, but you have no idea if it makes sense or not. Yeah.
Other than computational drug discovery, what fields are we seeing data science come into play?
Yeah, so it's actually like, I mean, as I don't know if you guys have come across it, like nowadays people say like data is the new gold. Actually, like, so data is playing a very important role in every aspect of our life. So some of the examples that I could think about are, for example, like we have the self-driving cars from Tesla. So more than saying like data science, I would say like artificial intelligence, like where it has got an impact in which fields. So for example, yeah, we have the self-driving cars from Tesla, even though it's not like really out yet, but a lot of research has been going on about it. But then of course, like it's all happening because of artificial intelligence. And then like recently, like in one of the talks I just came across and I was quite impressed, like artificial intelligence is also playing a role in shipping industry. So like in the talk, like the person was saying that in shipping industry, what they do is like based on the previous cruise trips that they have had, what they do is like they keep track of the fuel consumption. So now that like everyone is worried about like the global warming and stuff, so they need to make sure that they should take the shortest route with a less fuel consumption. So in that case, also again, data comes into role here because based on the previous experiences and the previous trips, they get some inspiration to reduce fuel consumption. And then apart from that, yeah, of course, also like I'm pretty sure everyone is buying things from Amazon. And then like you have in Amazon uses something called as the recommendation system. So you would have noticed like when you buy an item, Amazon tells you, so people who bought this item also bought this one. So you quite often get recommendations for that. So how do you think this is happening? This is based on like the previous purchases. And again, artificial intelligence plays a role here. And also with your movie recommendations and Netflix, everything comes from the previously, like, I mean, from the, by tracking user data. So data has a role everywhere.
How did you choose between doing research and going into industry after graduation?
So for me, it's not like it's not a very conscious choice. It's more like it's just that I had the opportunities to do it. So for example, like after I finished my PhD, I had a collaboration PhD between industry and in academia. So I was at the University of Helsinki in Finland, like for about 6 months every year and 6 months in the company. So I had the opportunity to explore both at the same time. And based on my experience, what I would say is like, at least for me, but different people have different opinions. At least for me, like when working in industry, I feel like we have fixed goals. Everything is so well structured. And we have at the beginning of the year, we set like, tuck, these are the things that we want to do. And so this is how we progress further with. So I like this like really structured pattern. And I also want to see myself that I'm making progress in what I'm doing. I'm not saying that people in academia are not making progress, but academia has got a different working style. Maybe in academia, like they give you like all the time that you need, but sometimes, but I've got like really good experiences, like both in academia and in industry. But I've heard from some of my friends like that you really get lost in the process. So since you have plenty of time, you don't have the fixed goals. So you could explore like something for like 2 years, 3 years. But then, as far as if you want to stay in the field of research, you really need to show the external world that you're doing something, which can be shown by means of presentations or publications. If you're not making any progress, like based on these two, and if you're just exploring on your own for 2 or 3 years, then it's really going to have an impact on your career a bit later. So I feel like, I mean, yeah, it all depends on like the group you're in and what kind of things you experience. But yeah, I mean, this is why like, so some people like really like industry, and some people like, I have a lot of friends like who never want to get into industry. But then like, yeah, the other challenge with academia is like, if you want to become a professor, like there are very few professorship positions like all over the world. It's highly competitive. And it's not only that, like the other key challenge is like, if you want to run your own lab, you need to convince the funding agencies, and you need to take care of your PhD students' funding and stuff. And quite often this is not easy. This is quite a challenging task. And but then on the other hand, with industry, like you don't have to worry about funding and stuff. You just have to worry about the projects and how you want to make progress further in the field. So this is why, like, I mean, I like industry much more than academia, but like, as I said, yeah, everyone is different.
What was your first win that made you confident that you were doing the right thing?
Hmm. That's that's an interesting question. Okay, all right. So yeah, actually, what I would say is like, even though I've been like working on like multiple projects, there was one project like that really made me feel like more confident that I could stay in the field. Was like when I was doing my PhD in Finland, I had an opportunity to do a project from start to finish on my own, like no supervision or anything. My boss said, the project is yours. Do whatever you can, give us the final list. So in the beginning, I was kind of a bit stressed because I didn't have experience of like completely drafting a plan, implementing it, and also giving it to the end users. So it was quite a challenge, but still, like I managed to do it. And I can't talk like about the specifics of the project, but still I could say something. So I was involved in the computational modeling part of that project, and I was supposed to help the chemists. They had like about 1,000 molecules. So based on the computational approaches, I need to help them prioritize like the top 5 or 10, so that they do the testing only on those 5 or 10 molecules and not the entire set of 1,000 molecules. So the prioritization really matters. And I was also quite happy that this project made a positive impact. The reason being like, I gave them the list of 10 molecules, and out of which 2 were like, they really worked out and they had like the activity that they were supposed to have. So I felt that was a major milestone in the project. And that kind of like made me feel confident that I could do a project like from start to end with no supervision. So this was something, yeah, I would say like the first win of my life. Yeah.
What is the most interesting thing you have experienced through your career?
Mm-hmm. So during my career, oh, okay, apart from like doing research here, we also have this, yeah, this is why I like being a scientist. So we also have this opportunity to attend a lot of conferences, and we get to interact with a lot of people from our field. It's not only that you're showing like what you're doing, but you also get to know what everyone else in the field is doing. So I really enjoy this kind of interactions. So before the pandemic, like I used to go for like lots of conferences, and I do a lot of networking. And that has actually helped me progress a lot, like all through my career. So I find that part to be like quite interesting being a scientist. And one like most memorable conference that I could think about is actually like attending the Linda Nobel Laureates meeting. So it's a meeting that happens in Lindau, Germany every year. And where about like 30 to 35 Nobel laureates, they come together, and there'll be like 600 students all from all over the world. Most of them are either masters, PhD students, or like, I mean, the important condition for this meeting is like you're not supposed to have a permanent position. So that's the criteria. And so I was a PhD student in Finland back then, and it was easier to apply. But then, yeah, so nearly about like 20,000 students apply for it, and they pick the best 600 in the world. So it's quite challenging to get into these meetings, but it was like a really memorable experience because you get to interact with the Nobel laureates. So they had a lot of sessions like the science talks and also having breakfast with the Nobel laureates and also like dinners and stuff. So you spend a whole week with them. So actually, after this meeting, the way I was thinking about science and the way I do things like changed completely. So I would say like this meeting has had a major impact on my life. And so, yeah, these are actually some of the fun parts of like being a scientist. And another thing that I enjoy is, of course, like I do a lot of mentoring, like not only mentoring students, like I mentor high school students and also like students interested in pursuing STEM careers. So I mean, every mentoring experience or every call is unique, and it's not only that they learn from me, I also learn a lot from them. So I actually think like I have a privilege of being a scientist because these interactions wouldn't have been possible with these students like without being a scientist. So these are actually some of the best parts of my career.
What do you like most about computational drug discovery, and could you share with us interesting facts or experiments in this field, along with why people should pursue computational drug discovery in the future?
Okay, yeah. So with computation, I don't know, like, I mean, probably most of you, since most of you are in high school, so you don't have an idea. So I can just explain you with a very basic example. So back in the days, like, let's say 30, 40 years so back or something like that, like we haven't been doing like much computational drug discovery at all. So what happens is that like someone says like, okay, we have this disease, we need to find a drug for this disease. So based on the previous hypothesis and whatever knowledge people have got, they actually like experimentally test like tens of molecules or even thousands of molecules. And this has to be done one by one manually. But then since the advent of like all these computers and technologies, what we could do now, even if it's millions of molecules, we can just screen them in a few hours with the help of computers. And then like, as I told you, like, which is as an example for the project I did before, so out of these millions, we can pick the best 10 or like 20, and then we just give it to the experimental people and they test only on that. So we save a lot of like time, resources, and money on this. And apart from that, like the best part with the doing computational drug discovery is that like we can actually like quite often it's hard to simulate, like even though we can find like a drug molecule, it's hard to find out what happens after you take the drug. So we need to have a system where we can do some kind of simulations to find out so what really happens to the drug when you take it. So nowadays with the help of computational software, it is really possible that one could simulate the whole situation, like, okay, we have different pH levels in the intestine and elsewhere. So we can set up the pH levels, do a simulation to find out what happens to the drug when it gets to the intestine. So it's possible to actually like really pretty much we can imagine the whole situation of designing the drug, like to getting into your body, everything through the computers. And then we finally test like only on the most relevant molecules so that we don't have to do it like on tons of molecules. And also the best part is like nowadays computers are also playing a role in like planning the clinical trials, because like we don't want to test just like that on the patient. So it's better that like we have some models, something that could predict the clinical outcomes. And then like if we could already predict, then we can decide the doses of the patients that we give to the patients rather than us deciding based on experience. I'm not saying it's completely bad to decide like based on experience that this is how it has been done all these years. But then when you have data about like whatsoever has been done before, it makes much more sense to make use of that data, derive conclusions, and then plan your experiments rather than doing it like just like, okay, I have no idea, it's dark, but still I go ahead with that. So yeah, these are actually some of the best things about computational drug discovery. And also it's not only that, like, I mean, nowadays, like we still have like, I mean, much more improvement. So we have gotten to the point. So not only in the later stages that we use computers, but even in the beginning, like from target identification, identifying what is causing the disease to what should be like the drug for that disease, like everything is done, can be done with the help of computers. We can even optimize the parameters of the drug molecule. So for example, let's say the chemist says, okay, here's a drug A, but then the problem with drug A is like probably it doesn't have all the properties. Like if you want to take orally available, if you want to take a drug orally, then you need to make sure that the drug is soluble, because otherwise the pill that you take just gets stuck in your throat. So you need to make sure that it's soluble and it goes to your intestine. So to optimize all these properties, also we have computational models to do that. So even while designing a molecule, it is possible to optimize these things. So these are all the best parts of the computational drug discovery. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. What is it like to be a woman working in the STEM field? And can you recall any times when you questioned your involvement in STEM because of your gender?
Okay, so in that respect, I would say I've been quite lucky. The reason being, like, I've always had equal opportunities in all these years, and no one has ever, like, not included me in something just because I'm a woman. And also, the best part is, like, this has happened, like, in all the organizations I've worked before. And it's even better in AstraZeneca because here, like, everyone is treated, like, really, really equally. And so there's never been a problem that I had to experience just because I'm a woman, like I'm not a part of something. So we actually like whenever we interact together as like researchers, and never as like, okay, he's a male or like she's a female and like things are different. So this has never been the case. But I know this is not the same thing for everyone. But in my case, like I've been quite lucky with that. Yeah.
Do you have a network of women in STEM around you to share knowledge and remind you that you're not like the only person, only woman in the room or anything like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not something that I've been like really going and looking for these things, but it just happened. For example, like after I started this being a mentor in New York Academy of Sciences. So I'm a mentor as a part of the 1,000 Girls, 1,000 Futures program. So there, like, I mean, it's a completely like, I mean, it's only female mentors and female students. So there, like, as a part of the program, we have these like monthly calls among the mentors. So which was absolutely amazing. Even though I couldn't attend like all the calls because of different time zones, but at least I managed to attend like a couple of them. So those are pretty nice. So we have like all these inspiring young female scientists who really want to do like who really want to achieve something in their life. So that's a very good network. And apart from that, also locally, we have something like the Gothenburg Women Scientists Group. Like I'm a part of it. Like it's a group on Facebook. And apart from that, like I've also subscribed to some mailing lists like Women in Machine Learning and stuff. So these things actually like help me to keep on track. And apart from that, I also do like quite a bit of networking in LinkedIn. So that's what has helped me all these years. But as I said, like since I was never like differentiated based on gender, I wasn't like really looking. I was mainly looking for people working in my field, like more than really looking for women working in my field. Yeah.
Um, can you tell us more about AstraZeneca and what you hope to achieve from it?
Yeah, sure. So AstraZeneca, like, I mean, I've been here for 2.5 years. I would say it's a great company to work. The best thing that I really like admire about AstraZeneca is like, so irrespective of like if it's your boss or like whatever, maybe there is really no like hierarchy at all. Like, so everyone is treated so equally. So, and then like it's easy to, everyone is easily approachable. It's easy to find someone, like at least back in the days when everyone was working in office, it's easy to approach someone in the corridor and ask something like, okay, hey, I'm not sure like how to do this. Can you help me with this? So it was just like, you can approach pretty much everyone. It really doesn't matter. No one cares about the hierarchy here. So this is the best part of like being in AstraZeneca and what I want to achieve. So I would say like so far, like, I mean, I've been quite happy here and I've been like really doing things that could have an impact in the field. So what I would really like to achieve is that like during my time in AstraZeneca, so I would like to have developed some kind of like methods or models in the computational drug safety field that would not only have an impact internally within AstraZeneca, but also it would like I would get some recognition, or like AstraZeneca is placed like very well because of those models, like on a global level. So this is what I'm hoping to achieve, and I still have time. It's just been a couple of years, so let's see where I end up with.
Yes. What changes have you seen in the past few years that affect the field of computational discovery? And what do you predict will happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so that's actually like, I mean, next 10 years, I would say that's quite a difficult question. Like, we really can't see like what's going to happen in 10 years. But based on my previous experiences, I could just share like, so whatsoever, I mean, at least like from the past to now, like it has always been about the speed of the modeling. So for example, a model, like earlier, we used to train the models on the CPUs, for which, for example, let's say like for training a model, if it takes like 10 hours or something on a CPU. So now we can do it on the GPUs. If we do it on the GPUs, it just takes 1/10 of the time. So this is already like great improvement. So we don't have to wait for like days and days to get to see what our models are going to produce. So it can just be done in a few hours. So that's already like a great progress. And apart from that, like one thing that I see right now and what is picking up is like everyone has started to use deep learning, and I'm pretty sure you guys would have come across it. So deep learning is like, I mean, and deep learning actually what it lets you do is like it helps you handle something as a multi-dimensional problem, because drug discovery, or it's not like a single parameter dependent stuff. So when you think about like designing a drug, you need to think about like in multiple dimensions. So this is why we need to have something like a multitask modeling. So for example, if we want to whenever we design a drug molecule, we look for certain properties, but it's not like that single property is actually influencing if this drug is going to the clinic or not, but it's like tens of other properties. So we don't want to build separate models for each and every property. So what we would like to do is like put all the related properties together in a single model and have a multitask modeling. So at the same time, we can try to optimize multiple parameters. So this is the greatest advantage of using like deep learning approaches. And apart from that, deep learning has been used for years in image recognition and stuff, and also the immigration departments for identifying criminals and like doing all those things. But like not so much in drug discovery, at least for the past couple of years, like, or maybe even a bit more, deep learning has been picking up a lot in drug discovery field. And apart from that, like yet another thing that's still in its infancy but picking up at the moment is quantum computing. I don't know, maybe some of you are already aware of it. So again, like quantum computing is just about the speed. So when compared to GPUs, for example, if it takes like 4 to 5 hours to train on a GPU, so we came from CPU to GPU, now GPU to quantum computers, probably we can do the same task in minutes. But still the field is in its infancy and people are trying to explore, so we don't know where this is going to go. But this is something I'm expecting that should be the next hype, and like everyone would start exploring quantum computing. So at least this is how I would see like for the next 3 to 4 years. But then technology keeps changing and new things keep evolving. So it's a kind of bit hard to predict what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
What are some steps and tips for those looking into building their own computer research or medical related research?
Mm-hmm. So if you want to get into computer related research, so the basic thing is like you need to be strong in coding. So you should also enjoy coding. So that's another important thing. If you don't like programming at all, you shouldn't think about doing any kind of computer research. Yeah, of course, you can get into hardware related research. probably not software. And then getting into the medical field, I don't know, irrespective of whether you establish a computer-related research or a medical-related research. So whether you're in academia or industry, or if you're establishing your own company, whatever it may be, the first thing to look for is you need to find out like who are the potential stakeholders. Let's say you establish a lab, you do something, but who's going to actually take your services? This is the first thing to look for when you establish a research. So for example, like, I mean, if you're establishing a group at the university, you need to make sure like, okay, I'm going to do so-and-so medical related research, but who are the customers in the university? Who's going to need my help? So this is something to look for. So even before you apply for the position, you need to make sure that there is someone who's going to take your services at the university. So that's an important thing. And then like, I mean, before you decide like that you're going to build up your own company or having your own product, the first thing would be like, finding out like who's going to use that product, or if it's going to be a software, like how can you market it and who's going to use it. So this would be the first thing to look for. And then like other things that I would say is like, rather than just jumping into a field, just look more for like volunteering opportunity.
Looking back to your high school days, what advice would you give students interested in computer science or medical science? Which opportunities do they look for?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, back in the high school days, like, I mean, at least nowadays, you guys have very good access to internet, but not like, yeah, I finished my high school in 2003. So not like 15, 16 years back. This has been quite difficult. It was quite hard to have like even a very basic internet connection. But now I think like, I mean, the best thing for you would be like, so what I would advise is like having a mentor has always helped me. So if you want to, and it's not only that you need to have a single mentor, you need to have different kinds of mentors. So one who could help you with developing your personality, with your communication skills, and all the other interpersonal skills. And you should also have a field-specific mentor. If you're interested in a specific field, you need to have some kind of contacts there. And you need to understand like how the field is functioning and how you can really get into this field. So this has always helped me, but I didn't have field specific mentors back in my high school days. I just had someone who could help me with developing the interpersonal skills and stuff. But like my life would have been like maybe even better, or like things would have been different probably if I would have had a field specific mentor. So I would definitely suggest this. And I know it's not easy. So your mentor can be anyone. It can be someone from your uni, or like some of your high school teachers, or like also the seniors from the respective universities or from your schools. Or it can also be like, now that everyone has got access to internet, so you can also try to network among people in LinkedIn. And quite often, like, everyone is so busy. So please don't expect that everyone is going to respond to you as soon as you write. So maybe some don't respond at all, and that's totally fine. But still, there'd be someone who would be willing to help you. So try to find people online. Try to set up a call, introduce yourself, tell them, hey, this is my background. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I would like to learn. So this is a way to go for this. So this is the advice that I would give, like, to anyone like who's in high school or in your uni. Yeah.
What computer language would you learn if you were starting out in computational drug discovery from the start?
Yeah. And as I said, like everything else, this has also been evolving, because when I started my uni, I was mainly doing like C and C++, but nowadays things have changed a lot. And then like when I was about to finish my university, I started learning Perl. And then when I came to Finland for doing my master's, I started learning Python. But nowadays, like, as far as drug discovery is concerned, we also have a lot of specific packages like related to drug discovery. It's all in Python. So I would say if someone is starting today, I would ask them to learn Python, because that's the hype at the moment. Maybe after 5 years, this is not the case. But nowadays, like everything, like every kind of like modeling approach, or like the new things that we get, like, or like even for describing the drug molecules and stuff, all the packages are there in Python. So it's better to learn Python. would say. Yeah. But also, like, I mean, learning a programming language is always like quite easy as long as you should learn at least like one language so that you know like how the syntax is working, how the basic things are, that structure of programming. But then, like, I mean, a different language is just that the syntax slightly changes. But then as long as you know the logic, you can just do it in any language and it's easy to learn. Yeah.
What personal qualities and skills do you feel are needed to succeed in the STEM field?
Mm-hmm. So it's not only like in the STEM field, but any field, I would say, like as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, you're definitely going to succeed. So, but please don't do anything that just because someone else is saying or something. It's okay to get advice from other people, but at the end of the day, the decision should be yours. You need to be happy about what you're doing. As long as you're passionate about the things that you're doing, I think you'll definitely get success in doing that. And also, like, I mean, make use of every opportunity that you come across. Try to be proactive and just do a lot of networking, interact with the people, learn new things. And as long as like you keep yourself like up to date in the field, whatever may be the field, you're just going to be successful. Yeah.
That was the last of the prepared questions, and now we're just going to pick up questions from the chat.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So Melior at the start had a question. She asked, at AstraZeneca, what kind of data are you responsible for analyzing?
So, okay, I mainly work on like internal data that is produced like by the experimentalists like within AstraZeneca. So I mostly work on like drug property predictions. It's more like physicochemical properties of the drug. As I said before, like we need to optimize many different kinds of properties if a drug has to go to the clinical trials and like further in the market. So I work in this kind of like property predictions. And apart from that, I also work on like other safety related aspects. But most of the data that I work on is produced internally and no outsiders are going to have access. Yeah. Did that answer your question? I don't know who asked. Yeah.
Meliora did. Oh, okay, she said yes.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, next we have, oh wait.
Our next question, Fortini asked, did you ever feel discriminated as a woman in science? If yes, what did you do to deal with it?
Okay, as I mentioned before, like I think Shivika asked about it. So there's never been a chance that I had to experience some kind of discrimination. So I've been quite lucky in that respect. So I was never treated differently just because I'm a woman. Yeah.
Excuse me, can I follow up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know anyone in your field that has been discriminated?
Okay, not that I'm aware of. So I think it depends on like where you're working. So, but in the organizations like where I've worked, so there's never been like, no one has ever been like, not that I'm aware of, that someone has been discriminated based on gender. And it's also like really not appreciated in any organization that does it. But I don't know, like, I mean, but I've heard like, I mean, people saying that, but I've never like personally seen anyone in my circle who has actually experienced it.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Frosina. She asked, what are some of the biggest challenges you have gone through so far and what helped you overcome them?
Yeah, so some of the biggest challenges I would say as being a data scientist is like we spend like, so let's say we spend like nearly 6 months for getting a model out. But then the data we get is never completely clean. So this is the most challenging part of being a data scientist. So we really need to make sure, like, because if we feed in like crappy data in the model, so whatever we get out is not going to make any sense. So we need to make sure we give the models, we train the models with the highest quality data. So then to get this highest quality data, it's often not going to be very easy. So also when we get like the data from the experimentalists, like the data is never in the format that we would like. If the data is in a text file or like an Excel sheet, we have everything sorted out, then it's going to be quite easy, right? But it's never that way. The data can be in many different formats. Sometimes we can also get something in PDF formats or in many different other formats. And like we need to find like optimal ways to process process all this data and produce clean data. So this is actually the biggest challenge. So in a 6 months project, we spend at least like 50% of the time just doing data cleaning. And also, like, there are several steps like with the data cleaning. So we do the first round of cleaning, then we ask the experimentalists like whatsoever. Of course, with every step of cleaning, we have to do a lot of coding, and we should also produce different kinds of visualizations to make sure that it's all making sense. And then we go with all these visualizations to the experimental people. And then the experimental people like will help us figure out, like, because they are the ones who are producing the data. So they know, like, I mean, if it makes sense or not. So they'll help us like with making sense of the data. And then like we go back, we do the next round of cleaning. And then like till we get the highest quality data. So we just continue this process. So this is why we spend like nearly 50% of the time doing data cleaning. And this is like the biggest challenge of doing data science, actually.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Parisa, who asked, how do you balance work with learning new skills on your own? I'm a high school senior and it's pretty tough managing time and energy. In tech, I know continuous upskilling and learning is required. So do you learn from online courses / resources? And if so, how do you balance it with day-to-day work? Thank you.
Yeah, all right, great. That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, time management, yeah, that's a skill that comes along with experience, and it takes a lot of time to, even I myself, like sometimes like I just complain to my mom that things are not going okay, like because it's hard to manage everything at the same time. So what I tend to do is like I have like really like proper timetables made, and I really have to stick to the timetables. Whatever happens, even if the whole world turns upside down, I have to stick to the timetable. So this has helped me like quite a lot. And also like coming with upgrading my skills. So of course, like in our field, like if you want to stay in the field of research, like we should constantly keep ourselves updated with the recent literature. So we quite often do a lot of literature reviews. So we talk with our colleagues. And then like we also have internal resources and trainings. And like, yeah, of course, we need to make sure that we also spend some time for doing that. And also as a part of our goals, like we could also like, I mean, we could dedicate some time for personal development. So this is what like, so I spend like nearly 5 to 10% of my time like focusing on my own development. So I could like, but yeah, I mean, it's a kind of bit difficult to manage everything at the same time, but it's more about like skillful timetable preparation and making sure that you follow it. And that's the most important thing. Yeah, because we can always make timetables, but like we don't follow it. So yeah, this has helped me, but like I've used a lot of online resources in all these times. And like I also use this Udemy, Coursera, and like do some courses there to keep my skills updated. And apart from that, as I said, like we also have internal seminars, and like we also sometimes invite external speakers to give talks here. And so yeah, and then like reading through literature. So this is how I keep myself up to date. Yeah.
Next, we have Sharuka. She asked, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you stop it?
Okay. I've never experienced, but I know a friend who has been through it, and it's difficult. And so maybe you have to work with a therapist and probably like get through it slowly, but it's not going to be like an easy task. But of course, you need some professional help. That's what I would say. But I never had imposter syndrome, so I didn't have to go through that. But of course, you need some professional help if you think you're having imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Our next question is from Fotini, who asked, can you use the method of computational drug discoveries for vaccines as well? Has this method been used for the COVID-19 vaccine in order to determine the dose / side effects as you do with drugs?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, computational drug discovery is like used everywhere, right? Of course, like, but I'm not an expert in immunology or like, I haven't been involved in vaccine research. So it's a kind of, it can be used, but it's a kind of bit hard for me to comment exactly on the part of like if it has been used for COVID-19. Yeah, because I've never been involved in that research, but what I've read like from literature and stuff, it is possible to do that. But I don't know how far computational approaches were actually used to decide the dose exposure. I'm pretty sure it should be used to some extent, but I'm not like quite clear about it because I'm neither an immunologist and I've never worked in like vaccine research. So it's a kind of bit hard to comment on this. So I'm sorry about it.
Thank you.
So Fortini also asked this question. I don't know if this is your field, but can you use the method of computational drug discovery for vaccines as well? And has it been used for the COVID vaccine in order to determine the dose?
Yeah, but it's the same question that I answered before, right?
Oh wait, sorry,
Yes.
I forgot. I didn't read that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I was supposed to read the other one. What do you think companies in medical industry such as Astra are looking in terms of education and skills?
Sorry, what do you mean? Like, could you please repeat the question? I'm not quite sure if I get it.
What do you think the medical industry are looking for in terms of education and skills?
Okay, all right. What is the medical industry is looking for? Okay, all right. So it all depends on the level of job that you're getting, because we also have like master students like working for us, but majority of them are PhDs. And of course, like we have like many different departments. So it's a kind of like, but if you want to work in pharmaceutical specifically, because of course, even here, like we have HRs, we have IT industry, and we also have software engineers working for us. But then if it's specifically pharmaceuticals, I would say like most of us like have domain knowledge of specific things. And then like majority of us have a PhD. And of course, like we also have someone who has done their masters and working for us. And I'm not quite sure, like bachelor students, like we quite often get them as like graduates and interns and stuff, but like not really working as scientists. But master students, yeah, there is a possibility. But like, I mean, it's not possible for all different like domains and fields, but like in some areas, yeah, it is possible that like even after your masters, you can get a position. But as I said, it all depends on the department and what kind of career you want to pursue and stuff. Yeah. But most of us have a PhD if you want to be in the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I personally have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I wonder, how did you land your job at Astra? Like,
okay.
As a student, like I'm curious because there's a lot of jobs out there, and where do you want to look first when you're starting out?
Yeah, all right. So for me, it was more about like, actually it was via LinkedIn, and like, so back then, like when I was in Germany, I was actually looking for jobs in industry. So I subscribed for job alerts, like looking for specific kind of positions. And then I got this whenever an advertisement is posted, like irrespective of whatever may be the company, I just get an alert, I get an email and saying that like so-and-so vacancy is there in so-and-so company and like this is the position. So, and then I look back and then I check for like what is like really interesting for me. Do I really like that project? Can I really do that? So I check for a few things. And then I start applying. And then, of course, like after application, it's just not like one step, right? It's a series of steps. So we just have to do like the first round of telephone interviews. And then like we have in-person interviews, like pretty much all day. And then like, and also like meeting a lot of people. And it's like a lot of like different kinds of assessments. So yeah. And that's how I ended up here. And also like, I mean, then I ended up here as a postdoctoral researcher, but then for my next role, even though I was internal, I still had to go through the same process because we are all, as I said, AstraZeneca never discriminates anyone. So everyone is treated equally, irrespective of whether you're applying internally or externally, it doesn't matter. Everyone has to go through the same process, which is something I really appreciate and it's really nice. Yeah.
Wow, you made it sound so easy.
All right.
So does anyone else have any more questions they wanted to ask for Dr. Subramanian?
We got one last question in the chat actually. So it's from Fotini. She said, what do you advise what would you have for advice for a young woman who wants to pursue a career in STEM?
Yeah. So what I would say is like, be persistent irrespective of whatever everyone else says. Like, I mean, myself, like, because I'm not from Europe, as you all know, I'm from India. So it's been like quite a difficult journey. Like, I mean, when I started, of course, everyone was like totally discouraging me. They were like, okay, how can you actually like go abroad, live on your own, like being a woman? Like, okay, it's not someone from my field, but actually what I'm saying is like about the society and my relatives and everyone. But it was just my parents were like very stubborn. They were like, yeah, I know you can survive, you can do this. So they've always been like really supportive. So I would say like I've been quite lucky to have such nice parents. And so that has actually helped me. So I'm pretty sure like all along the way you can be discouraged by a lot of people saying that like you really can't do it. But then in the end, like you need to be sure, like whatever it may be, I'm going through it. So even for me, it was quite a difficult choice because like coming from India and moving to Finland, it's like really like an other extreme. I've never seen snow or never something below like 20 degrees all my life. That's how I grew up. And then I moved to Finland where the temperature drops to minus 30 in winter. That was a drastic change. So of course, like, I mean, there were a lot of challenges in the beginning. Like at some point, I even thought I just wanted to quit my master's and go back, but still I was like really persistent with what I was doing. I was like, whatever happens, I'm going to finish my master's. But when I look back, even now, I think like, I mean, I'm really surprised that I managed to live in Finland for 6.5 years. It was quite a difficult choice for someone like who's coming from a warm country. So that was pretty hard. So yeah, what I would say is like be strong in your decisions. If you think you're doing the right thing, just go ahead, irrespective of whatsoever everyone else like is thinking about it. So that's something important. And also like, I mean, don't think that like, I mean, I've also seen this among some of my friends. They themselves think that, okay, I'm a woman, I really can't do this. It's not going to work that way. I mean, okay, in the worst case you fail, it's totally fine that you fail, but just go give it a shot, like whatever it may be. Like, I mean, you succeed or you fail, you learn something from it. So just go for it. And this has always helped me. Like, and I've failed in multiple situations, but it has always helped me. Just go for it. Whenever you get an opportunity, take it, do it. And don't worry so much about the outcomes. Just go for it. And then the other thing is, yeah, so these are actually the most important things that I would say. And then like, just do the things that you're passionate about. Then you're going to be definitely going to be successful. So at the end of the day, you should be happy with your life and you don't have to convince anyone else. Like you should be happy and that's it. Yeah.
Thank you for such a great, oh wait, Shivika. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Like education systems can be really different in different countries. So did you face any cultural shocks from going to high school and maybe, I don't know if you did college in India, but college in India to your master's in Finland?
Yeah, I did college in India. So yeah, I totally agree. That was a very big difference. Like, because in India, it's more about like, everything is like so structured. You just have the, I mean, specific textbooks, you learn from the textbooks, write the exams, and it's all done. But Finland, when I was in Finland, it's all like a really practical oriented approach. And like, you really need to think about like, I mean, we even had like open book exams, and still like it's impossible to answer a single question despite having an open book exam. So these things were like so different. I struggled like quite a bit. Of course, I had to invest a lot of extra time in trying to understand the system in the first place. So my first 3 to 6 months were like, I pretty much like, except the 8 hours of sleep, I was just like trying to understand and trying to study things like pretty much all through the day. So it was a lot of extra investment, and it was quite a bit of shock for me, like, because as you said, like the education systems are very different. Yeah, but still at the end of the day, like, I mean, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to study bioinformatics, and it was my decision. So no one forced me to go to Finland. So it was all mine. So I decided to go ahead. Is there something else?
Oh, wait, Fortini has another question. Why did you choose Finland?
Okay, all right. So I actually like, yeah, a lot of people ask me like pretty much every day, whomsoever I come across, why did you go to Finland from India? Yeah, I mean, that's, Yeah, so that's really a question, right? So I actually wanted to do my master's in Europe. Like, so the reason being, like, so we have this European Bioinformatics Institute, and I've read a lot about it, like when I was doing my bachelor's, and I've also come across a lot of things about the bioinformatics field in Europe. So I really wanted to pursue my master's in Europe. So then I started applying, and then like I mostly applied in Scandinavia. And the reason being, I had a lot of friends there. And yet another reason is that like the education was completely free when I did my master's. Even though my parents were ready to sponsor my master's, I felt like, I mean, I'm an adult, like I need to take care of myself. So it's better that like I just like, so I don't want my parents to go bankrupt, like just by sending me to a college with a very high tuition fee or something like that. So yeah, so I actually like, so mainly applied to Finland, Switzerland, Sweden, and I also applied to NUS in Singapore. This was mainly because of my parents. They wanted to keep me close. They didn't want me to send me to Finland. So also like the day before I boarded the flight, like my mom asked me, do you really want to go there? I was like, Mom, come on, like we fixed everything and I'm boarding the flight in a few hours. Do you want me to stay here? Yeah. I mean, like my parents were really so scared because they've never been in Finland and they're sending me all the way here all alone. And yeah, so the main reason was like the education was free. And also one more thing, like I got admission in like both Sweden, Finland, and also in Switzerland. I didn't go for ETH Zurich. The reason being like I didn't get any scholarships. So, and it was it's very expensive to live in Switzerland without a scholarship. So I decided I wouldn't go for it. And then like I had the option to choose between Finland and Sweden. And in case of Finland, I actually liked the course curriculum. It's much more flexible. Even though I did a master's in bioinformatics, I had the option to choose. The education system was very flexible. I could choose courses from pharmacy department. I could choose courses from chemistry department. I could also do some business courses. So pretty much I could explore anything. Of course, I had a list of compulsory courses, but apart from that, I really had the flexibility to do whatever I want, which in fact like made me to explore drug discovery. Otherwise, I would have never gone for it without exploring that. So this is why I felt like that was the best decision I ever made, like is going for a master's in Finland. So because of the flexible system and also the education was free back then, but not anymore, I think, not for international students. Yeah.
So does anyone want to ask any more questions for Dr. Subramanian? So I guess that's it. Thank you once again, Doctor, for having your time to talk with us about your experience and all these stories you have, and also along with your advices. And thanks to everyone for all of your questions.
Thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure. I really enjoyed the session, and thanks for the wonderful questions. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.